Hello again everyone, Deflect here, Firm but Fair Gaming. Wanted to bring you a new build. It is part of the Druid builds. This one took me a little while to get out because I was busy the last couple weeks, but we've done Resto, we've done Guardian, now on to Feral. I've played Feral for quite a bit. I do enjoy the spec a lot. It's a very fun spec to play. I actually prefer it over Boomkin, but yeah, there's a lot of Boomkins out there. So I did it a little different the way I'm playing it right now. And I'll go through the talents first just to show you. I did Sabretooth like everyone. Wild Charge. I took Balance Affinity. It all depends on what you're doing. If you're doing PVE or PvP, some in PvP will switch it up. But I took Balance for the extra 3-yard range, and Balance Convoke is still very good as well. Feral Convoke is good, Balance Convoke is good too. Mass Entanglements is what I was using last time. You can use Heart of the Wild if you really want to boost this. So if you're actually not going to need roots, like this week you shouldn't, because this week is Volcanic Bursting, and you're not in a specific dungeon where you do need Mass Entanglement, I would switch it to Heart of the Wild, and then you can use Balance Affinity Convoke, which will do even more damage. It is unbelievable what it can do for damage. So definitely look at that, because all you have to do is switch into Moonkin form. I have the star one, so you can't really tell. Hit Heart of the Wild, hit your Convoke, and you're doing a ton of damage. Now, this is not a fair representation. As you can see, it peaked at 20, but that's not a fair representation because the star falls on everything, but it just is something to show you on what it can do. So for the rest of the talents, I took Soul of the Forest. Your finishing move grants 5 energy per combo point spent and deals 5% increased damage. Primal Wrath. This is a great talent. Finishing moves apply Rip to all enemies. And Bloodtalons, one of my favorite, when you use 3 different combo point generating abilities, your next 2 rips or ferocious bites are increased by 30%. Don't forget, Bloodtalons applies Rip to everybody. So you can get your 2 stacks up, and then when you hit Bloodtalons, that 30% increased damage is applied to everyone. So very, very nice. And then of course you can bite after. So that is why I take that. Let me just get out of combat to go on with the rest. I will go into what I am currently using for talents and PVE. Sorry, I did talents, I'll do PVE, and I'll do just touch on the PvP because it changes Legos. That's the only reason. You gotta have your 4-piece, it's a must. You just need your 4-piece to do damage. So what you want to do with your 4-piece, because Berserk will then proc Sickle the Lion, so you want to wait till everything is grouped up. Make sure it is grouped up tight around you, then hit Berserk, so you're hitting everyone with Sickle the Lion. That's how you get the big damage. Other than the 4-piece, for the Legos, I am using Frenzied Brand. So this is the combo point generator. Abilities reduce cooldown of Berserk because you want to hit Berserk as much as you can. I'm also using Unity, of course. I have currently the file. It's only 260. I could go upgrade this. I have enough to do it. I just haven't done it yet. It's not going to make that big a difference, so I just left it at 265. But I have a 265 file, and I have this because I got an amazing roll with Leech on it. As for the stats, I like to push Mastery a little higher, so I usually try and find someone with Soleil's Trinket that has Mastery, that I can push it just a touch higher, over 40%. But all the rest of my stats are very close. Crits 24, haste is 24, versus 20. You don't really need a ton of like survivability on it. So verse haste is, I think, your worst stat, but I had a lot of haste on my gear, so it is what it is for me. I'd like to lower that and raise the mastery a bit and raise the crit, but I'll have to do that when I get better gear, which will be next season. Lots and lots of utility to the Druids, so they do have unbelievable utility, and we'll get into all that after we go through the Soulbinds. Naya is your best one. I did the path with Conflux the Elements. I went the left side so I could get Conflux. Born of the Wild, these really don't matter. You can pick whatever one you like. Well-honed instincts, because it is phenomenal to have this. It just, you know, gets you a free frenzy regen once every minute. Gotta have bite because you're using a bite build, which brings you to the poison. So your interrupts apply poisons, which is why you should always be interrupting. Don't forget your skull bash, use it all the time. Carnivorous instincts, your target's for damage bonus is increased by 6%. And my last one is front of the pack, because having more roar is always better. So after Naya, they have just Druid are built with utility on everything. Oh, sorry, I forgot. If you're going to use it, obviously use a regular feast. If you don't have a regular feast, go with the mastery feast. If your mastery is already too high, go with the crit. Basically, whatever you do, whatever you're missing, go with that. Shaded sharpening stone or weighted stone, depending on which weapon you have. So I am using the shaded right now because it's not sharp. If you had a pole arm, you'd have to use the I'm using the weight stone instead of the sharpening. If I had a pole arm, you'd have to use the sharpening. The one big utility for Druid in this spec is if you're running balance, you have all the balance ones. So you have Typhoon, which is very good for Sanguine weeks. You have Roots, you have Hibernate. Hibernate's great, like a second boss on Mist, you can hibernate the Fox. You still have Cyclone, which really you don't want to use because you have to pop out to use it. It's still there if it's like a must, but you don't want to if you don't have to. And then you also have your defensives with Survival Instinct and Barkskin. But I have made a couple macros to make my life easier playing Feral. One is my Catform also then procs my stealth, so I don't have to do either if I'm out. And if I'm running around without stealth and my stealth is off, or say I run around because I had to heal, you know, put a regrowth on, I can then hit Catform and it automatically puts me in stealth. So I made a macro for that. I made a macro for my Berserk to really, that's your big damage window, so I put a couple things into that as well, such as trinkets and different items. But I did make some mouse overs for Moonfire and a mouse over for Cyclone and a mouse over. I had roots on mouse over, but it wasn't working that great. I do have a mouse over for Hibernate, so you can just hibernate the Fox as well. And I also made a nice macro for Shadow Meld, because it's great to have Shadow Meld and then right into stealth. So going into Feral's main ability, you want to be stealth when you start on a pack. You want to open with Rake. Always open with Rake, because it will stun the target and do more damage. I then Thrash, and because you're using the combo or point generator and you have to have two, I go Rake, Thrash, and then Swipe if it's multiple targets. And then based on what I am going to do next, depends on what I waste my combo points on. If it's a huge pack, I will apply Rip to all of them with Primal Wrath. If it's not a huge pack and it's single target, I will just apply the Rip to them. And then once all that is done and it's all grouped up, that's when you hit your Berserk. That's when you hit your Convoke. And again, if it's a big pack and they're still up, hit Primal Wrath, and then Swipe, because Swipe does 20% increased damage to bleeding targets. So these targets are going to be bleeding. You'll want to Swipe to keep it up. And I have the counter here to see how long I have on my next ones before I can get another combo point regen to increase bite damage or rip damage. So if it's a lot of packs, you want to make sure you have this up for when you Primal Wrath, so you're doing the extra damage. And then other than that, you want to keep focused on keeping up your other dots, your Thrash to make sure that's up, your Rake on your main target, and then just swiping in between on AoE packs to keep up the damage. Now I'm not doing this very fast, so the damage won't look very good, but just so you're aware, that's what you're trying to do. And then you'll want to see before your Convoke comes up, use your Primal Wrath, because when you hit Convoke, you're going to hit multiple abilities. So you don't want to have any combo points. You'll be full by the time you come out of Convoke. So make sure you waste your points before you Convoke. And then again, it's just filler with Swipe. making sure your dots are up with Thrash, making sure your Rake is up. If that's all up and you have all your combo points there, and you have one, you can always bite the free one on your main target. Keep your main target with a bite. That way you're doing funnel damage to a priority and keeping damage on the rest. Your Feral, you're never going to keep up with all the other classes like Destro Warlock or Survival Hunter. You're never going to keep up with them on AoE damage. So they just do way too much damage and you'll never be able to keep up. It's just a fact. It's going to happen. So do what you can to funnel damage. That's your job. You're more of a single target builder where you can do some AoE, but funnel damage is going to be your key. Now see, I did have 5 combo points here and I actually wasn't paying attention to the wrong button, so I wasted it. But when you have 5 and I have a Convoke up, but I had a bite come up, I want to make sure I have the extra damage for the bite. It's just 30% extra damage on that bite, and you can see I had 4 combo points. I'm still going to bite before I Convoke because I am, again, back up to max. So those are the things you want to keep your eye on playing Feral. It's definitely a dot spec where your dots don't do any damage, which is unfortunate, and you're more bite damage, but Rip does do quite a bit. So you keep Rip up, you're doing well. Your other ones are kind of just there to do a little bit. Like, as you look at the damage profile, Thrash is so pitiful compared to the rest of the things. Swipe actually does more than your Thrash dot, which is pretty sad, but it is what it is. It's the way Feral is right now. I'm hoping to change it for the upcoming Dragonflight. But if you have any questions on Feral, the single target doesn't change much. Just you change Primal Wrath to Rip instead. So it's pretty similar rotation, and then you'll just bite a lot more than using your combo points on Rip. You'll just use them on bite a lot more. You can still do it on AoE, but you'll want to do it specifically on single target. And always Convoke when it's back up. Don't ever sit on Convoke. It's just too good of a spell to sit on. It does so much damage. So you can see it does quite a bit whenever you hit it. You can actually, like I said, if you have spec'd into balance and you have Heart of the Wild, definitely every 5 minutes, because this is 5 minutes and you're not going to have a couple Convokes during that period because it'll only last 45 seconds and your Convoke is a minute cooldown. But during that period, you'll want to pop out. I'll show you when Convoke is off, but make sure all your dots are up when it's off. And you can actually play a different way as well and apply Sunfire to get a little extra damage if you want. But as a Tiger's Fury, I'll waste that first before going in, bite, and then you see I have the Convoke, so I have a couple of combo points I can spend really quick. Make sure my Rip's up, switch over, Sunfire, Heart of the Wild, Convoke. I should have Heart of the Wild when I switched over, and then I'll add a Sunfire before I go back, and then I'll go back into Feral. And you can see the Rip just dropped off, but I can reapply it very quickly. So you can actually switch in and out at this point if your Sunfire is going to fall off to do, you know, a little bit more dot damage, but it's not going to be groundbreaking by any means. But mainly, Heart of the Wild you will want to waste on a Convoke. Don't waste it without the Convoke. It just won't do the damage you want. So make sure you have Convoke up before you use Heart of the Wild. Make sure you're in Druid form, but you can do it once every 5 minutes. That's pretty much it for Feral. Again, it's a lot of utility. It's a fun class to play. It's one of my favorite melee classes. It does decent damage. It doesn't do fantastic damage. They really nerfed the dots a while back, and they haven't brought it back yet, but it is what it is for now. One day they'll get a buff. Still very good single target, but lackluster in AoE. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave a comment below, ask away, like, share, subscribe. I forgot to mention you have a bunch of stuns as well. Typhoon is a pushback stun. Skull Bash is your interrupt, and Maim will use combo points, but you can stun if it is necessary. But with Typhoon on a 32nd and Skull Bash on 15. Very rarely do you have to use maim, but it does still happen. Anyways, Deflect, Firm of Fear Gaming. We'll see you in the next video.